I know it's miserable out, and I'm sure we'll have people kind of trickle in as the day goes on. So we really do appreciate you being here. For those who don't know, my name's Jason Norton, and I get the privilege of working with the Lee Agency and True Acre teams. And so this is really one of our favorite days every year that we get to participate in with you, get a chance to connect, hear how things are going, and it's always more fun when prices are doing what they're doing now. And so we're excited for the year. We're excited with where agriculture is headed, and really are looking forward to today. I just wanted to take a couple minutes and talk a little bit about our organization, both at Lee and True Acre, and kind of what's going on and where things are headed. And we really talk about things in three categories. We talk about where have we been, where are we currently, and where are we going. And so I'm going to talk about that with Lee and True Acre. Start with Lee. Lee Agency really has its roots dating back to 1873. The Muscatine Mutual was a group of farmers that came together to pool their resources to insure their properties. And so really agriculture has been in Lee Agency's blood since the very beginning. Lee Agency now, we really have four niches that we focus on. We work in medical malpractice, primarily insuring nursing homes, and for those folks that are our clients this year, it's been a really tough year, as you can manage or imagine. We also work with contractors, manufacturers, and then the last part, agriculture. And as we look at what we're doing and what's going on in the history of agriculture, we need to grow. Really, as we're looking at things, we believe that there is a great foundation that we have to stand upon, and now we need to move forward. And so you're going to see us continuing to look to grow aggressively in agriculture on the insurance side. And what we'd love from you, if you could help us, and even today, find somebody in one of the blue shirts, we want to know, what do you need? Our mission really at Lee Agency, as we talk about it, is we want to make you better. How is working with us, how does that make you better? And so if you have different things that you have ideas where you're going, hey, this could really help me. This is something that I would really enjoy. This can make our operation better. We want to hear about it. Because the best way to figure out how to help you be better is to talk with you about it. And so please, as you think through that, even if you shot us emails, visit with us when you came in to do your buying decisions here before March 15th, we want to know, how do we make you better? And so please help us in that, and that's something we're going to be driving towards as we continue to try to grow our organization and as we move forward. Because the reality is that as we look at the insurance industry, that to provide you all the services we believe you're going to need, we have to continue to grow our footprint. So we're excited with that, but we could use your help. So really do appreciate it. On the True Acre side, founded in late 2014, early 2015, and really, True Acre was founded on three principles. There are three kind of common questions that we had from farmers. Number one is technology. What do I buy? How do I know what to even buy? How do I know if it pays to put this on my planter? How do I know if a yield monitor really helps me? How do I know any of this? What do I buy? Number two, we heard from everybody, how do I remember how to use it? So I use this once a year in planting season, once a year in fall. How do I use it, and what do I do with it? The third thing is, how do I use the data? So as I have all this data now available to me, what do I do with it? And in True Acre, that's really where we're focused on as we move forward, is what do we do with the data? And Rob will be talking about that here later on, a little bit more on the agency side and on the True Acre side. But our focus at True Acre is to continue to sell the product, continue to help you use it, but really our focus is driving towards, how do we use the data? What does it look like? Where do we go, and how do you take that and now make better agronomic decisions? So that's kind of where we're headed with True Acre and what's going on. Again, just want to really say thank you for being here. Dad wanted to say hi as well. He's in Florida. He's having a rough day. It's only 72 there. He wanted me to know this morning. So he wanted me to pass that on. If you guys have his cell phone numbers, please text him and tell him what a jerk he is. But that's just my own personal feelings maybe. But really do appreciate everybody being here. And the last part, I want to say thank you, not just for being here, but thank you for what you do. I was talking with some friends here the other day that spend quite a bit of time outside the country. And what a reminder it is to me is I was visiting with them, talking about how easy it is and what a privilege it is to be able to go to the grocery store and just pick up food whenever I need it. Never have to worry about being fed. And that's really a testament to you. And I want to say on behalf of our organization, thank you so much for what you do. As we hit this environment, we understand there's pressure coming from all sides towards you. But I want to say for us, we want to say thank you. Thank you for making it so we can go and easily have whatever we want at a very fair and economical price. And it's because of you that we're fed and that we can have those opportunities. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the day. And Logan did ask that I share one piece of disappointing news. The governor did let us know that she's not going to be able to make it today. She did send a video, just road-wise. It's nasty enough, certainly understand. And really appreciated her caring enough to send a video and connecting with us. So thank you again for being here. And I will turn it over. And please, if you have any questions for us at all, please let me know. Thanks so much.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. My name is Rob Schmidt, and I'll get things kicked off here, but Logan, Lyon, and I are going to be sort of presenting up here together as we start. But thanks so much for making it out. It is a little disappointing the governor's not going to be here, and it seems like if we need a really good snowstorm, Lee Agency just needs to have an ag seminar. If we need some rain, then True Acre has to have their plot day, and it seems like we do a pretty good job of that, at least. So we haven't had a really good snowstorm like this for a couple of years, so this is really nice. Thanks for all making it out. I'm sure some of you were up at 4 or 5 this morning plowing your driveways, and if you were like me, you also had to plow the gravel road to be able to get out too, so otherwise you still wouldn't be here yet. So thanks for braving it and making it here today. We actually had probably in the last 5 years, we've had our largest RSVPs for today at well over 200. And when this storm hit yesterday, I'm like, I hope we hit 100 maybe. So be sure to eat lots today. So we're going to probably have a little bit of leftover since we had food for over 200 coming. So again, thanks so much for making it out. Again, my name is Rob Schmidt. And one of the things I want to make sure and hit on today is that I've been asked multiple times in the last probably year and a half, hey, are you still involved at Lee Agency? A lot of people have heard I've been involved in True Acre, so I keep hearing, hey, are you involved at Lee Agency? Yes, I'm still involved at Lee Agency. I still have a book of business. I still help out in a leadership capacity with them as whenever Jason needs me. I help out helping Logan and others with the farm and crop team, and again, still have that book of business. In fact, Jason actually gave me the opportunity to buy in, to invest in the agency this last winter, and so I even took that opportunity too. So I was able to invest in there, so I'm not going anywhere. I'm really proud of being part of the agency, but I do have sort of my feet in both buckets. So I'm in True Acre, but I'm also in Lee Agency, so if there's anything going on in True Acre you want to know about, talk to me. Anything on Lee Agency, don't be afraid to talk to me. So I am still heavily involved in both of them, and I'm not going anywhere. So, and some days it just goes from Lee Agency to True Acre, one phone call after the other. So with that, I want to kick off and just talk a little bit about Lee Agency. I know that Jason hit it a little bit there about how we want to serve clients and how we want to serve you. But we have a dedicated agriculture team at Lee Agency. So we have a dedicated farm team that handles farm property and liability, and that's what they do. 365 days a year, they're working in agriculture on our farm team. So you may know some of them. We have Kristen and Heidi, also newest to the team, who's helping work in the mutual side is Andrea Putman. She just started here in the last year. Maybe 6 months ago to a year, she started. So we have a really good ag team. But also on that ag team, we have Logan, Lyon, and we have a new salesman to the team in Hunter Britton, who recently started. They are specializing in ag. They're focused on agriculture. And we work with farm property liability. We can help work with contract growers. We also do ag business, seed dealers, chemical, fertilizer, all that on the ag business side, as well as trucking and doing agriculture trucking and other commercial trucking. So would love to work with you on that. On the farm property liability and others, we have multiple carriers. Unlike a lot of farm agencies, they don't have multiple carriers, but we have Farmers Mutual Hail, we have Secura, Continental Western Group, and Grinnell Mutual, and we also have Muscatine Mutual, which is pretty unique because we're the only agency that can write for Muscatine Mutual. They're exclusive to us. And with that also, we have our own adjuster. They have a dedicated adjuster for farm property claims in John Bell. And I can tell you that during the derecho, that was a huge advantage. He was able to get to all of his claims quickly. And when he was a little bit behind, Tom Norton, who is the manager of the mutual, was helping get out there. And they were able to get checks cut quickly and keep things moving. I know that worked really, really well. Some of our other farm carriers, that didn't work quite as smooth, but we're here to be involved. So if there's claims not going well, we're going to help. Work with the adjuster, work with them. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that you get everything you have coming to you. That's our job. We believe as an agency to make sure you get everything you have coming to you. Now, maybe at the end of the day, maybe we're not always the cheapest, but we're going to make sure we provide you the greatest service and do everything we can for you. And from what we've seen, we're typically always very competitive. And with having multiple options, that gives us the ability to stay competitive, because if one company's rates climb, we can move things around. We can find you better options if you're looking for something different. So, again, that's our farm team. I'm very thankful for all the work they do. They're doing a great job, and I know some of them are around here today, so please make sure and connect with them. And then also our crop team. So we have a dedicated crop team unlike others. So a lot of you know Dee and Kylie, and they're here today. Again, Logan and Hunter are working on there too. And this crop team, they're 365 days a year just on crop. So they're handling your crop insurance. And as you guys know, with crop insurance, we specialize in multi-peril and private products like wind and hail and green snap. And Logan will go more through those later. But we also have things like margin protection, whole farm revenue. One of the newer ones coming out we're not really talking about, but it's getting a little bit more traction even our area, is the pasture rangeland forage one. So that's another one. If you have much hay ground, if you have much pasture, you may want to think about that and look at that. I've had a few people asking about it. And then, of course, we have the ability to use the technology in your cabs to do your reporting through automated and precision crop reporting. And with crop insurance, too, we have multiple options. So we work with Crop Risk Services, Farmers Mutual Hail, and Rain and Hail. And a few of those representatives are here today from those companies, and so appreciate that. That's been a little difficult because some of these carriers, it's even tough because of COVID where the home office won't let them out. So that's made things difficult. So we're thankful for the ones that were able to make it here today. And with crop insurance, one of the things that I think sets us apart is what you can expect from us. So every year we want to sit down with you and make sure that we go through your policies and make sure we get the right plan that works for you. So whether that means add in a policy that gives you protection up to 95% or maybe even up to 100% is available now. Maybe it's adding wind or hail. I think a lot of us should think differently about wind this year than we have in the past after seeing the derecho. But we will tailor everything to you. And we're going to help you with reminders. We're going to call you when there's reminders. We're going to send out those flyers that are brightly colored so you remember, hey, acreage reporting's coming or production reporting is coming. We're going to do everything we can to help you and make sure that experience goes well so you don't miss something. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to mine your claims, or mine your production for claims, which means a lot of times you go, hey, you don't know insurance and you don't know maybe the prices went up or something and you've actually fallen into a claim and don't know it. We're going to go through and look for it. We're going to do all we can to find the claim. We want to make sure you get everything you have coming to you. So if you paid for that insurance coverage for 85%, we want to make sure you get paid for a claim if you don't. And not all agencies do that. I had a client probably 5 or 6 years ago, and they weren't a huge farmer, but they came in, they said, hey, we want to switch our crop insurance to you. I'm like, hey, that's great. Would love to work with you. So they signed the paper deal. They said, when do we turn our production in? And this was about the end of February. Hey, when do we turn our production in? I'm like, you haven't done that yet? No, our agent just always had us do it when it was when we came in to do signatures. We never did anything till then. Okay, no, let's get that done. You probably get tired of us occasionally if you work with us hounding you for your crop insurance or for your production to get that stuff filled out. There's 2 reasons we do that. One reason is we want to get your database filled out properly. So we know what your APH is going into the new year. Therefore, we know how much revenue you're going to be protected and where the yield triggers are for you. So you can make the best decision, and we have a more accurate idea of what your premium is. If your APH moved up or down, will affect your premium, will change how much you have protection. So that's why we like to have that available. The other thing that we found with these people was this claim. We went through and found out here they had a claim. It wasn't a huge claim. It was about $4,000. But again, they weren't a huge farmer. But it was too late. We couldn't collect on the claim for them because it was too late. That's the other reason why we're going to harp on you guys to give us your production. We want to see it. We want to get the database updated. And in case there's a claim, we want to make sure you get it. So that's what you can expect from us from crop insurance. We're going to do everything we can. And our core values are tell the truth, work hard, and have fun. We want to make sure we have a great attitude for you guys and that we're working really hard for you. And as Jason said, hey, if there's anything else we can do better that you would make the experience better, make your life easier, please let us know. That's what we're here for. We're here to serve you. You can buy crop insurance from any place. We want to make sure we're doing the best job we can for what fits your operation. So, and then real quick, so the True Acre team and the Lee Agency team, this is our agriculture team. This is people that are dedicated to agriculture between Lee Agency and True Acre. You can see we're continuing to grow, we're continuing to expand, we're continuing to get better at the niche of agriculture. So with that, I get to introduce Logan. In the past, you've had to listen to me ramble through crop insurance, and it's a little boring. So Logan volunteered to do it this year, so I'm excited for that. But Logan's been doing a great job. Continue to especially get to know that some of those specialty products that we have available in crop insurance. So he's been doing an awesome job of that, and so I'm excited to let Logan Lyon take it from here.
Volunteering might be an overstatement, but nonetheless, I get to go through this with all you, and like Rob and Jason have said, really appreciate y'all coming out today. I know there's other things to be doing, and sitting inside and watching the snow blow by might even be more fun than sitting inside and listening to me talk about crop insurance. So do appreciate you coming. So what we're going to talk about, so obviously our crop 2021 changes coming down the pipeline. We'll go through some of the county election programs and how those are going to affect your operations this year. We'll go through our hail products, our private products, and then Rob will jump back in and talk some crop forward marketing and how we can use our crop insurance and tie those together. Year over year, we have great partners in the crop insurance carrier realm, and we continue to utilize these three companies, and all of them are sponsors today for the event. So if you get the opportunity to catch any of those folks, we definitely appreciate it. Crop Risk Services, Farmers Mutual, Hail, as well as Rain and Hail, continue to be really, really strong partners for us. And one of the reasons why we've always been gravitated to utilizing them as partners is their ability to utilize the production reporting and the precision reporting. So which ties into the relationship with True Acre. So we can utilize True Acre to make sure we're utilizing the data to the best of your ability and our ability to make crop insurance as easy as possible. So that's why we utilize these folks. In the quotes that I have and the examples in the packets that you have, they're all Crop Risk Services quotes, so they might look a little different than what the ones that you have in your packets from Dee or Kylie out there, but just to try and keep things simple, I'm using a CRS quote. If you don't have a quote today, just let us know, or you'll be able to follow along here and be able to see how that works there. So a little comparison from 2020 to 2021. So last year's spring price was $3.88 on corn and $9.88 on soybeans. And right now this year we're projecting, or we're estimating, a $4.40 price on corn and an $11.50 price on soybeans. So and so how that's determined is the February average of the December futures on corn and the February average of the November futures on soybeans. And right now, if you pulled up your stock app on your phone, we're tracking pretty well. So I think, at least for being 1 week into February, prices are lining up pretty well with these estimated prices. And I think we can continue to see some of that. And Steve Johnson will have a little bit more comments on the future of the markets later. How that rolls into play here is, what does that do to our guarantee? So once again, since we have higher prices here, we're going to have higher guarantees, but we can also expect higher premiums as well. So strictly from a guarantee standpoint to a premium standpoint, they line up pretty well. So we can see that our guarantees increased about 14% this year on corn, and we can kind of expect the premium for corn to be up about 14% as well. On the soybeans, 24% increase because of that price. Also, about a 20% increase in premium as we go through this. So one thing that as we compare prices similarly, so if we put in our quota this year at 388 instead of the 350, there's actually a rate reduction in both crops. So the rate on corn is minute, but about a 1% decrease in rate per similar dollar on corn, and about a 6% decrease in rate on soybeans. So there is a little bit of makeup in there to help that gap be cleared a little bit, but as we could expect with higher guarantees, we're going to expect some higher premium there. The one part that's still being determined aside from the dollar guarantee is the volatility factor that each one of these companies utilizes. So we put in kind of our standard volatility factor. So what I'm saying is at the end of February, if all the prices are the same, on the quotes that you have, it still could change because there is another factor that kind of works in the background that you'll need to keep an eye on. But we have quite a bit of confidence that these numbers moving forward will be pretty sound. So a little historical information. So I like to look at this because I wasn't farming and I wasn't very old in 2012 and 2013 when prices were real high. But what I do like to capture is since I've been working in the insurance world, we've had a pretty tight spread on the price of corn for your spring guarantee. So Rob and I were talking the other day, and Kevin Van Trump put a tweet out, and in the past 5 and 6 years for our spring guarantee, there's really only been like a 15-cent spread on that. But this year we're jumping up, and we're thinking that could be interesting. And one of the reasons I like talking about this is we can step back and we can say, okay, what decisions did I make back in 2012 and 2013 that were good for my operation based on this spring price? And what things did I do in those years that weren't so great for my operation? So history tends to repeat itself. Are these things that we can look back on and say, yep, with this similar price category, this is some things I can expect moving forward. So similar with soybeans, a little bit more volatility there, but we're on the uptick there, which is helpful from that standpoint because it's been kind of a tough few years here. But we'll see how the rest of the month treats us and how the rest of the year treats us. So what is baked in the cake of my underlying MPCI crop insurance policy? As I was just talking about the February discovery price period, we also get the harvest price as well. So that's the October average of the December futures and the November futures. And if that moves our guarantee, I'll show you what that does a little bit later. But if that price is up, it helps our guarantee. If that price is lower, it helps our trigger yield. What we get with replant. So for our replant options, and this is once again baked in the cake, we're not adding anything else to it. We get 3 bushels of soybeans at the spring price and 8 bushels of corn at the spring price, which both of those adds up to be about $34 or $35. So if we go out, we plant, we think we have good timing, but we have issues, this gives us the opportunity, gives crop insurance the opportunity to pay you a little bit of money to go out there and reseed some acres. So if these come up, we always encourage people to reach out to us because, yeah, I know the seed company, most seed companies are giving you a guaranteed replant. They're going to give you the seed anyways, but your time's worth something, your fuel's worth something, all those things. So even if you got to go fill in just a couple of patches, keep us in mind so we can get an adjuster out there and make sure it makes sense. Prevent plant. So not a big deal last year. We really had a pretty good growing season last year. But in 2019, for those of you that made it to our meeting to kind of understand what was going on, because it was kind of uncharted territory, at least it's been a long time before 2019 that we had to worry about any kind of prevent plant scenario. But what's baked in the cake of your policy, we get 60% of our elected guarantee on soybeans, and we get 55% of our elected guarantee on corn. So if you're an 85% buyer and your guarantee is $700 an acre, on corn we get 55% of that number if we don't plant a kernel on that unit. So if that comes up again, if we have a tough spring, we'll be sure to be having an impromptu meeting to make sure everybody understands, what they have on their policies. What you can do is you can buy up a little bit more. So on your underlying, you can buy an additional 5% on each one of those. One thing to keep in mind is that the companies can deny your buy-up option for 30 days. So if you're really concerned about what the spring is going to offer, be sure to get down to the office, sign up early if you want some additional purchase of Prevent Plant, so we can make sure you're locked in early and mitigate the risk of these companies deciding, no, we knew we were going to have a wet spring early and we don't want to extend this. So if it's something that's on your radar, be sure to communicate with us on that. So like I said earlier, we'll jump into some sample quotes here. If you don't have a quote from Dear Kylie from out there, you'll be able to follow along up here and go from there. So in my quotes up here, I have Muscatine County corn on the top, Muscatine County soybeans on the bottom. Row number 1 on the corn side is our enterprise unit, and row number 2 on the corn is our optional units. So enterprise units, all of our bushels, all of our fields in that county go into one bucket. If you're an optional buyer, each unit stands and speaks for itself. So you're theoretically more likely to collect a claim in an optional scenario over an enterprise, and that's why we'll see some of those prices be how they are in this. So 85% across the top. This grower, we're using 440 once again for our estimated spring price and a 217 approved yield. So this guy has an APH of 217 bushel, which offers us at 85% a 184 bushel guarantee, or $812 an acre guarantee for our spring price. And what that's going to cost him at the 85% level is $24 on an enterprise structure, or $39 on an optional basis. So you can see we go down to 80% and 75% in both those categories. With prices as they are, we're really encouraging folks, depending on what that fall price does, to capture everything they can in this conversation. So you can go across there if you have more interest in an 80 or 75% conversation, but we'll go across there and talk 85 for the most part. On soybeans, the 1150 price I've talked about a little bit. This grower in particular has a 65 bushel guarantee, which offers us 56 bushels of coverage, which equates out to $640 an acre, and it's going to cost him $18 an acre on an enterprise conversation, or $27 on an optional conversation. So really a lot of volatility. Like I said, those prices are fairly flat with a guarantee. Keep that in mind from last year to this year. So really good opportunities to kind of figure out what we need for insurance when you're utilizing some of our profit calculators and our claims simulators on our website. So you can say, yep, I know my expenses in these fields is $750 an acre. Now, I want to make sure if I have a total crop disaster, I get my $750 back. So in this one, I should be buying 80% crop insurance. So those are really good things. And like I said, we do have those calculators on our website that are really resourceful for folks that want to take the time and go through those. If you're not good with the computer, we can always print some out so you can work through those individually. So what happens if we have a falling price this fall? So Steve will talk a little bit more later. I don't know what the opportunity is for a rising price or a falling price. It seems like we can expect higher, but I won't guarantee anything along those lines. But quickly through this, a 200 APH at 85% gives us 170 bushel guarantee, times the 440, which we just went over, is a $748 guarantee. But what if the price falls? So if the price falls, we don't reset our guarantee, but we do reset our trigger. Normally our trigger was going to be that 170 bushels, but if we go down to a $4 price, now our trigger is a 191 yield. So if you have a 200 APH and your new trigger is a 191, average or chances are you've had a 191 bushel year in that scenario, and pretty good opportunity to collect a claim if you're an 85% buyer in this scenario. So fall price, if the price falls or is lower, we can expect a different trigger yield, but we'll have the same guarantee. On the other side of it, if we have a rising price, basically we're resetting our guarantee up, but our trigger yield stays the same. So 200 APH at 85% again is 170 bushel. Times 440 is our 748 guarantee. But if we have an increase in price and we go to 525, now we have an $892 guarantee. But we didn't change our trigger, so after bushel 170 down to 169, that first bushel is worth 525 now. So keep that in mind. Like I said, we have those claim simulators and those profit calculators on our website that I think can be really helpful for folks that are spending some time looking through those. So to get into changes a little bit for 2021, one thing we'll be going over is quality loss, which is a new endorsement on policies this year. We have some changes to the beginning farmer rancher program as well. I'll talk a little bit about ECO, which is a new county product that can be added to your MPCI. And then we'll talk a little bit about county elections. The county elections aren't anything new, but because of the 2018 Farm Bill, we do have the opportunity to select options differently this year. So what quality loss is. So when you guys get your policies and you're looking through it, there's a line across the top that has all sorts of acronyms and TAYA. Now we'll have QL, which is quality loss. And what that's going to do is it's going to take pre-harvest yield to put into your APH, and then it'll calculate if you have a quality loss and settle that claim separately. So now, instead of having quality issues in your crop that affect your APH and your 10-year average, this will be set aside. Your quality issues will be set aside, and we can settle a claim better that way, so we're not triggering a issue with your yield, but we're being able to get the best out of those scenarios. So we will be adding this to all policies. It doesn't cost unless you use it. So we do have the opportunity to reach back a little bit, and if you did have a loss trigger years ago but didn't have a payment, we have to have a notice of loss on those. But we can adjust those yields as well if we reach back. So keep that in mind. I think it's something we'll be adding on to policies. If you do want to dig into any of those a little bit more, definitely ask us some questions on that. So just want your confidence, Rob. So the beginning farmer rancher, so one thing that's really fun for our office is seeing operations transition, whether it's to a family member, to a neighbor, to anything along those lines. And the beginning farmer option has always been there, but they're giving us some better goodie in these now. So new for 2021 is even if you weren't involved in that operation before, it was just a neighbor, it was an uncle that you didn't help normally, it was, grandma had the ground that was being rented to somebody else, and now you're interested in doing that. Now, regardless of who was farming that before, if they're willing to sign their APH over to you, you can get the benefit of as much history as they're willing to give you on that. So before it was just you had to be involved in labor or management decisions. Now, as long as you can get written permission from that previous grower and they provide their crop insurance information to you, that can transfer over and be a benefit to you as a new and beginning farmer. We're still trying to figure out what the details are. If you were a beginning farmer last year, can we reapply for this, and how does that work? So we're working through some of those details. But if you've been a beginning farmer rancher in the past couple of years, you think you can get some more better yields from this program, be sure to have that conversation with us. Up to 10 years, which is what the crop insurance is offering anyway. So where it gets a little messy now. So SCO was presented last year, which is supplemental coverage option, and this year we'll be talking about ECO, which is enhanced coverage option. What these both are is a county product that sits on top of your underlying MPCI that is your revenue protection. So the SCO gives us coverage up to 86%, but that top percentage, whether you're an 80% buyer, it gives you 6%. If you're an 85% buyer, it only gives you 1%, but that 6 or 1% there is a county trigger revenue product. And so that's the SCO. What the ECO does is goes above that and triggers losses from 86% up to 95% on a county basis. So does it work? I'll show you a little bit of the historical data on here. One thing that we've always been really proud of at our agency, or what we've always pushed for folks, is the opportunity to utilize your APH. You know what goes into your farm operation. You know how you're growing your operation in those areas. But with this, if you fall in line with the county, or you think the county might fail next year, this is a product you can utilize. It does get kind of expensive, so there are some payment factors in there. So once I get to the next slide, I'll show you the example. And what we can do is, rather than taking 100% of what the county's offering, you can buy 50% of what the county's offering, which will cut your premium in half and cut the guarantee in half. But like I said, different risk for different operations. If there's a county product that interests you, I think this one's a good rider to keep in mind. There's some similarities between this and margin protection. So we've moved a little bit of margin protection the past couple of years, and you'll see some similarities because it's above what your guarantee is, but it's has its different qualifications on that. So here's the quote for that. This is Muscatine County corn, so the same quote that we showed earlier. On the 1% buy-up for SCO, you're buying $9.60 of coverage for $1.15. On the ECO, so we're buying that 86% up to 95%. We're buying $86 of coverage for $24 an acre. So once again, this sits on top of your already $18 to $22 of your MPCI. This would be stacked on top of that, covering those top bushels at a county trigger. But if you're interested in it, say, yep, I'm willing to bet against the county, but $24 is too much to bite off in this scenario, we can make that payment factor 50%. We're getting a 45% guarantee or 45% trigger, and it's going to cost us $12. So if you're looking to spend $12 more on crop insurance, I think this is a good place to look at it. But like I said, everyone's risk is a little bit different and different to keep in mind. Soybeans, similar scenario here. That first percent of SCO is covering $7.50 and going to cost you 60 cents, but that top 9% for ECO will be offering $68 of coverage and costing you $15 of premium. So once again, payment factor if it's something you're interested in, but don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket here. Historical data for ECO, so this is FMH sent this out to us. So if you bought ECO in the past 20 years, this is what that chart looks like. So the green is when we triggered a payment, 2000 is the top line all the way down to 2021. And one thing, the reason why 2020 isn't filled out yet is because the county yields haven't been established yet for 2020, and those aren't released until April, May of the following year. So this product has kind of a long shelf life. We buy it, and we say we want to have it March 15th, and then we wait and we pay premium in October, and then we go and harvest, and then we don't know if we get a payment until April the following year. So it has a longer shelf life, but based off county yields, we have to wait till the county yields are fully determined until this is released. So the box in the bottom right says we've paid $524 in premium over the past 20 years. The box to the left of that says we made $701 in total on this product. So if you're willing to put up $500 to win an additional $175, once again, kind of a gamble. You're betting against your neighbors, but there seems to be a little bit of traction behind this in the marketplace, so we want to make sure we're having transparent conversations with all of our customers to see if it fits your operation. So if you do want to see some different yields plugged into this, Dee, Kylie, myself can all run scenarios for you if it's something that you think fits your appetite. ARC and PLC. So like I said, this isn't new this year, but we have another election year, and I know Steve will be having a little bit more conversation on this later. ARC individual is based off of 2015 and to 2020 yields, but it's only using 65% of your base acres. So ARC individual, we're not looking at having a great payout on that one for 2021. ARC County is using 85% of your base acres based on the county average yields for those years. Better likeliness, and then PLC, if you updated your 2020 yields last year, you will get the opportunity to plug in that. One thing I missed out on the SCO, if you're utilizing SCO, so we're buying up to that 86% on the county side, you'll have to use the PLC on that. So reference prices, so one reason why this isn't as big of a deal as it was last year is our reference prices are quite a bit further away this year than they were last year from what the current price is. So we have a reference price of $370 on corn and $840 on soybeans, and we're quite a ways away from $840 soybeans, thank goodness. $370 corn could get back in the picture again, but I don't think here for this springtime period. But Steve will talk a little bit more about that. So really we're just thinking that prices might be a little bit too high to anticipate any payments this year. So one thing that we're doing a little bit differently in our checklist when we're sitting down this spring before sales closing is we'll be sending you with a sheet that says, hey, you elected this for corn, this for soybeans, these counties. So when you go to the FSA office, you know exactly what you did, because even if your next appointment's at the FSA office after you leave the agency, it's still a long time to forget what you just figured out with the gals at the office. So we'll be sending you with a sheet so you know what you just decided to do when you sit down with us there. So Some definitions there. I don't need to read through them for you, but do want, if you guys want to spend some time on those, you can. Our gals at the FSA office are here too, and I know that I've gotten some mailers from them, kind of helping us make some decisions and what's best on the ARC and PLC line. While I mentioned the FSA office, appreciate them being here today, but in conversations with them, how is that going to work between their offices? My understanding is they're anticipating to be closed to the public again this year for acreage reporting, but I think the normal mail system that they utilized last year, so make your decisions early, do your best to be diligent to get with us and make those decisions early and them as well, and make sure you call ahead, because I think a lot of folks are doing things by schedule still going into 2021. So. Planting and other dates, no updates in this area. So corn early plant is April 11th. Soybean early plant here in Iowa is April 21st. One thing that I'll mention, especially with keeping April 21st in mind, is more and more folks are considering early planting their soybeans. There's been some really great data out of different institutions that are saying, hey, planting your soybeans earlier is a good thing, as people are trying to go over more acres with the same amount of equipment. Can we get out there earlier? We do have some products that can offer you to go out and plant prior to these dates. So if you think you want to plant some corn before April 11th, if you think you want to plant some soybeans before April 21st, I'll go through a couple products here that can offer some additional coverage there that kind of excludes what your underlying MPCI is offering, but is a private product that you can get some goodie out of there. So I think when I sent this slide to our marketing gal, I said, insert scary picture of derecho here. And I think she did a pretty good job. I don't know if I remember seeing those grain bins the first time around through the derecho, but I know as an agency on the farm side, we helped guys get some new grain bins this year. So, and then obviously with corn laying flat, I know there's folks here that had a lot of tangled up crop and went through that process. So want to have the conversation on what our hail products look like and what our wind products look like. We had field grain fire on there really just as an understanding. It's not something that we sell much of, but if you don't have hail, fire is excluded on your underlying MPCI. So we've had conversations with folks that, combine was on fire, somebody threw a cigarette out the window, and the field's gone. Well, it's a good thing you have hail coverage if you do. If you don't have an underlying field fire coverage, hail coverage, MPCI does not cover abnormal fire to that point. So, but hail, similar conversations that we've had in the past. Hail's cheap. It's not a bad product to have there. It offers us some coverage while the grain's going down the road, and while it's in the bin, offers us that fire coverage as well. Wind products have always been complicated and have always seemed expensive. Similar to the conversation I was having on those payment factors, we don't always have to match what our MPCI is offering. So if we're getting an $800 guarantee on our MPCI, there's no reason why we have to go full bore on our wind and hail to cover the same amount of dollars that's covering. So rather than having an $800 conversation, I think it makes sense to look and say, yeah, maybe I do $400 this year on wind, so I can kind of figure out if this product's right for us. We've moved a fair amount of wind, but just with recent events, everybody keeps talking about weather patterns and that kind of stuff. What can we anticipate, and where's the right place to share those dollars and make sure that we're the best protected? So we have wind with green snap, we have green snap alone, and we have wind with extra harvest expense. And how the wind products are determined is after the combine goes through the fields, the adjuster will come out and count ears that are left, and then you're paid off a percentage based on that. So good products that they fit. I know there are some people, there were 3 or 4 windstorms last year, quite frankly, and for some guys that had a good wind policy, every time you trigger a claim, it eats away at that liability. At the same time, some guys had 3 different opportunities to turn in a claim. So it was an interesting year last year. Not saying it's going to happen again, but we want to make sure you guys are aware of all the options that we have.
Yeah, one of the things I would recommend here on the wind is, like he said, so don't do 800 or 1,000. I know a lot of times when we do our hail insurance, we think, hey, I'm going to do 800 or 1,000, and if I hit this field hit but not everything, I'll at least make sure make it back on here, because I may not have a multi-peril claim if I'm on enterprise units and it only hits one field, okay? So on wind, a lot of times where people are wanting to quotes at the 1,000, same as they did as what they would typically do on a hail, and then it's $10, $12, $14 depending on the county and the rate. So maybe let's look back at a $500 coverage so we still have some coverage at least to help us. That would have helped a lot of guys out this year. So be thinking that way. Let's be a little, maybe have to be a little creative. I think it wouldn't hurt to be looking at some wind though. And I had one client who took the wind for the first time last year, and his wind coverage, I think he got 3 different claims out of it because there was, as most of you know, there was a wind out of the south in July, and then it was 3 days later there was a wind out of the north, right, in July, and so that caused a lot of tangled up corn, and then of course August. That guy's wind insurance paid for all of his multi-peril crop insurance last year. Okay, so it can be very beneficial. And he still had a crop there. He didn't like he lost it all either. So, I mean, it worked out really, really well. So I think we need to be looking at wind a little differently than we have in the past. So.
Thank you very much. So as I mentioned earlier with that early plant date, so all 3 of our companies offer some kind of early plant coverage option. CRS is the first one I'm talking about. This is a fun picture because True Acre sold a new planter. It arrived here, I think, early March, so it made for a good photo op to say they're out planting way too early. But anyways, so on the CRS, if you're a CRS customer, you do have to have at least $300 of hail, and then you have to buy the replant option, which is 75 cents for $75 an acre. And then if you want to move that up so we can plant up to 2 weeks prior to the early plant date, we can get $75 of coverage on that. So on that early plant prior to the early plant date. Once again, the MPCI underlying, if you plant before that early plant date, the MPCI will not respond, but these private products will respond. So CRS also has that bundle. So as Rob was saying, hey, it's okay to kind of lower some dollar values here to collect more opportunity for a claim. CRS has the wind bundles with extra expense and green snap in there, and then they have the Deluxe bundle, which gives us a little bit more. Once again, it fits. There's a different shoe for every foot, and if this fits, we want to have a conversation with you on it. Rain and Hail, like I said, this is their early plant product. This gives us 20 days of early plant opportunity for $60 worth of replant on corn. It's costing you $1.80 an acre. For $50 a replant on soybeans, it's costing you $2.75 an acre there. So and Farmers Mutual Hail also has an option that looks similar to this one. I'm not sure on the dates perfectly, but I don't have a slide for that one. But if it's something that you're interested in, let us know. So private products, so Crop Risk Services have their revenue boost. So we haven't forgot about those products that offer the additional 10% on top of your underlying 85% MPCI. So if that's something you're looking forward to, Revenue Boost has this, or CRS has the Revenue Boost option, which locks in that spring guarantee. So we know that at the end of the year, we will at least collect what we have from a spring guarantee standpoint. And then this year they're offering additional pricing periods under their Boost Max product, which will give us basically replace the spring price with the pricing periods from in between June and July there. So if you're looking for higher amounts of coverage, it's another product for that. Rain and Hail has a revenue price option, which if triggered, you can add up to 25 cents on the spring price on corn and up to 75 cents on soybeans there. Margin protection, I talked about this one a little earlier, where it shares some similarities between with ECO. And what margin protection, this one has even a longer shelf life, but what it's taking into consideration is different crop inputs throughout the year. So they have different discovery price windows for your nitrogen, your dry fertilizer, your seed, your interest, all these things, and then it also establishes a estimated price or estimated margin for the county. And then as soon as the county yields are released, once again in that May-April time frame, then we can figure out if we have a claim on that. So once again, we talk shelf life. You have to buy margin in September of 2020 for buying it for your 2021 crop, and then you don't get paid until April of 2022. Has a long shelf life, but if you have a good understanding of your margins, if you have a good understanding of how different inputs are being utilized, and when those price discovery windows are, then there's an opportunity for some decent payments on this product as well. So it's about 4 years old. It's complicated, so it hasn't been overly appetizing to a lot of folks, but I think we moved probably a dozen policies through our office last year for the people that had a good understanding of it. So forward marketing, were you going to talk on this, or was I?
Sure.
All right.
Yep. So forward marketing, every year we talk about this, and a lot of you in the room will do forward marketing. Some of you don't. Just want to hit a couple of the risks, right? So if you're forward marketing, one of the risks you have is that if there's a more than 200% upward price swing, crop insurance won't go up more than 200% on the guarantee. So that could be a risk. Haven't seen that happen yet, but if it were to happen, that could be one risk we have. The other thing is the harvest price is the average of October. So why that's a risk is if you you forward sold and now you're short bushels and you have to buy them back. Let's say the price raised $1 over that month, okay? Let's say it started at $3.50 and it raised all the way to $4.50 in that month, and the average ends up being $3.75 or $4. You're going to get paid those missing bushels by crop insurance at $4, but if you don't do it till the end of the month, the elevator is going to be charging you $4.50. Okay, so that's where that could run into a problem. Sometimes elevators will work with you if you let them know ahead of time, hey, this is going on, I believe I'm going to be short bushels. There's some things you can do. I just want you to be aware those are problems. The other problem, and this could be a problem with us closer to the river, would be an inverted basis. Because remember that for crop insurance, they're going to be using the Chicago Mercantile Exchange price. That board price is what they're going to be using. And when we go to sell cash, it's going to be a different price. So for some reason, the base inverts because a GPC or somebody has a higher demand for corn. That could also cause you problems when you go to buy back those bushels that you were missing. So, and then also, as Logan hit on the prevent plant, you have to plant the crop, so don't sell more than 55% of your corn or 60% of your beans prior to getting in the ground, because if something happens and you don't get it planted, now you're not going to be getting crop insurance dollars to go buy those missing bushels back. So keep that in mind. If you have more questions on that, please let me know. I know we've hit on it already, so I won't spend a lot of time, but precision crop reporting and automated crop reporting. Again, it's the Lee agencies working with TrueAcre to help get that data out of your planter monitor, out of your combine monitor, use that to help report your acre or do your reporting for you. So if you're in a situation where you have a lot of waterways or you think FSA office is off by a long ways, you're paying more premium, it's affecting your APH, we could use the planter monitor to adjust and actually could use your actual acres if you'd like. Or if you have a setup where you got multiple entities farming together and you're commingling in the grain bin and it makes it difficult, we could be using the monitor to separate that grain out. So I'll hit on some of these dates later. One thing to keep in mind though, the Lee Agency Fall Egg Seminar, tentative date for that is August 19th. And I hope we are back to normal and Steve Malberger's here this fall. So some of you joined us last fall. It was a little difficult during COVID. I'm hoping things are back to normal. So put it on your calendar for the 19th. So before I switch gears here, any questions on crop insurance for Logan or myself? I know we sped through some of that private products pretty fast, and I know Steve Johnson will hit ECO and some of those things, but all right. No questions. I'm going to dive into the TrueAcre side of things. Like I said, I do step in both buckets most days working in the TrueAcre and Lee agency. And most of you already know the story, but TrueAcre was built to provide technology data or technology service assistance to farmers. Okay, it was really because Lee Agency was trying to get data from farmers, and we were struggling to get that data and have it be clean and accurate. And so we were working with different dealers, and then the one dealer wouldn't be able to help us with an ag leader. An ag leader couldn't work with deer or red, and it was just finger pointing. And so we saw a hole in the market. We knew we needed specialization in our office for us to be able to do better on the crop insurance side. And so with that, TrueAcre was born. And now we still have we have two divisions out there today, where we have the division that's going out and we're doing the stuff in the cab. So that precision farm equipment technology side. And then we have a division that's working in the precision crop reporting. So we're working with couple crop insurance carriers in the country, but agents also from all over the country. And we're getting data that we're cleaning up and doing for these guys from as far west as Colorado to Ohio, Texas, up to the Dakotas and Minnesota. And we're dealing with cotton, and we're dealing with sorghum and milo and all that. So it's been very interesting and fun for that. Appreciate everything that the team's doing there. So what I do want to hit on is the services that we do. So a lot of people know that, TrueAcre is a precision planting dealer, but really we're more than that. We're service. And that's what we think we do better, and we want to do better than any of our competitors. No matter what color, no matter who they are, we want to provide you the best service. That's what we're there for. If we end up selling a part or a product, great, but that's not really what we're after. We want to provide you the best service we can. So some of the technology expert side, that's everything in your cab. We are experts in that. And we're here to help you. So whether it's be selling you something new and installing it, servicing what you have, repairing it, come out and providing updates. Maybe it's doing trainings because you're not sure how to operate or how to run it, or you have somebody new on the farm that needs trained. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to help you. We can do phone support on that stuff too for in season, or even be out on your farm in season. Then, of course, planter experts. Okay, so with all we've been doing and working on planters and with precision, we have continued to become planter experts in what we're doing. So there's a lot of different services we can do. Of course, we can run your meters for you. So you can bring them to our office and we can run them. We can bring our trailer out. This is one of our mobile trailers. We can come to your place. We can run the meters right there and do all the repairs and make sure we get your meters back to running to the best they can do. Also offer planter inspections and planter repairs. So checking disc openers to see if they're worn, see if they're shimmed properly. If you got bearings out, gauge wheels are shimmed right. And we also sell all that. And we can do all that repair. And while we're doing it, we can even do depth calibration. So one of the things we know that most planters, the way that depth is set up, if you put it in the same notch all the way across and you assume that notch is 2 inches, I can tell you it's not going to be 2 inches. It may only be an eighth of an off by row. It could be a quarter. It could be 3/8 to a half. We'll go through, we can calibrate and then make the mark so you know where 2 inches or where 2.5 is. This is a big deal because we want to make sure we're getting that seed. If you think you're digging and you're going, okay, this is where the moisture line is, this is where I want to be planting, well, you maybe not be getting every row there, which means seeds are going to germinate at different times, which means emergence is going to be off. Okay, so something we can do is help calibrate. And we can help you do it. We can do it for you. Whatever you'd like to do there, we can do on that. Also, we can do preseason runoffs. So come out late March, early April. Looks like it's going to be more like April if it keeps snowing like this. But come out, make sure your planter's running. We can do everything ahead of time so that when you hit the field, you know that planter's ready to go, that you're good to go. You're not worrying about shutoff time. You're not worried about digging to see if it's doing. We can make sure you're ready to go ahead of that. Highly recommend that because depending on the year, you may have to hit the ground and be trying to get everything planted in 3 days or 7 days or something. You don't have time to take the first half day or 3/4 of a day to get stuff set. Then also with planter parts and equipment, we sell, we service, we install all of that. And then as Jason said, we're also continuing to work on the data side so we can help you with the data. So whether that's helping just get data out of monitors, transferring it for crop insurance, maybe you need help getting data from your equipment to your agronomist or somebody else, we can do that. We can build prescriptions for you. We can help if your agronomist makes prescriptions, you need help getting them loaded and make sure they're set up right, we can help with that. We can also help provide yield books and yield maps. We can also go through and talk to you about those yield books. If you're going, hey, I just want some help knowing if there's any issues on my farm. We can also sit down and help you with that. I had a guy who I was looking at his yields, and he had a couple farms that just around the outside, his yields are less than half on the outside 8 rows of his farm. In one farm, like they won't let him cut trees or do anything, and it would pay him to just put grass or something else around the outside. He would make more money on that farm if he would just quit combining those 8 rows and wasting money, putting seed in there and fertilizer and spray and doing all that. He's losing money, and that is hurting his ROI on that whole farm because of those end rows around the outside. He would be better off to plant it in grass or something else, or get the landowner to put it in CRP. So those are things we can sort of just challenge your thinking on, even doing some of that. We also do service and support agreements. So we can build a package that fits your operation. So if you need help going through monitors or getting monitors moved on pieces of equipment, if you want your planter ran off and you want that done ahead of time, if you want in-season support, we can build a package that will fit your operation. If it's loading prescriptions, we can build it to whatever fits your operation and what your operation's needs are. We've been doing those service and support agreements, and they've continued to become very popular because you know what you're paying for is prepaid. We're not worrying about all your hours. And also then we offer an hourly discount to those people with support agreements if we have to do some work outside of the support agreement. So keep that in mind. Also, one thing I missed, we also do boundaries. So if you need boundaries ran, so your planter's shutting off or your sprayer's shutting off, we can get boundaries ran too. We'll still be doing those this spring. Hopefully it quits snowing so we can get back out there and get some of those done. It's a little difficult with the drifts and the fence rows, but we will be doing boundary services also. And then these are the companies that we work with. Of course, Precision Planting and Ag Leader are big partners of ours. Yetter, we have the whole line of Yetter stuff. So from their head carts to their fertilizer tanks to their strip till fresheners and strip till bars, we have the whole line of Ag Leader parts that we can do there. And I'll talk a little more about some of their row closers. Martin Till's a new one to us, so we have their closing systems and their row cleaners and all that available also. Of course, Surefire, they're a liquid system. I'll talk a little more about liquid, so if you got questions on liquid, we can help you there, as well as with DigiFarm, RTK services and RTK beacons, we can do that. And so please let us know if you're interested in any of that. And we continue to sort of change our territories up and move. So I know some of this has caused some frustration and confusion as maybe your techs have moved. And what we realized is we had techs that were sometimes running 3 hours across their territories from one person to another. And that really doesn't work in April 24th when you're broke down and the tech you've been working with is 3 hours away. So we tried to change those territories up a little bit. And Sean Mears has been with the team about 1.5 years now. He's covering sort of east of 61 and into Illinois. He lives in Illinois, and so that's a good territory for him to work. He's working that Illinois territory for us. Sarah Hermiston and Jordan Abergall, they're working sort of from Muscatine north. And that red star, by the way, is Muscatine. So they're working north, working that area. So that's been Sarah's territory. Jordan's joining her in there because she's got a lot of clients in there. It's getting pretty busy and struggling to be able to expand that, but we had more customers calling us, so we've added people in that territory to continue to be able to have great service there. And then TJ Schott, he's working to the west and south of us, and TJ's been doing a great job. He's going down to that Wapello, Winfield area and down through there. And then Cole Olson is the newest technician of the team. He lives out in Brooklyn, west of Williamsburg out there. I don't know what time he got up this morning to make it here today, but I had to be a couple-hour drive in today. Appreciate what he's doing. He's doing a great job, and he's only been with us a few months, so he's getting up and trained, but he's got an agronomy background, working and doing some soybean experimental stuff and that, so he really knows the crops well, and now he's learning the equipment, and it's going to be a really good mix for him. His territory looks really big. That's new territory for us. We haven't done a lot over there west of TJ. So as he continues to get stuff built in there, we'll be slicing and dicing his territory up so that he has a smaller territory, more easy to manage for him, and we'll be adding people in there once we continue to grow. And then some of those other areas that are boxed out in black, those are other territories we plan to add people and continue to grow into. We have some clients in some of those territories, and just some people are working out farther into those, and it makes them, stretches them a little farther to get down there. Because we got clients all the way to Missouri, so we're slowly, as we can add more people, or add more clients, and it can get a return on investment, we'll be adding more people. So the team's back here at the True Acre booth. If you're interested in any of that equipment or learning who your rep is in your area, please stop back and see those guys. They'd love to visit with you. So I want to talk about our test planter quick. So some of you may be new. We've had this test planter we bought that was a 30-year-old planter when we bought it. And we started it in 17. And it was just a standard Kinsey planter. And we, on the left side of it, pulled everything off and put on electric drives and hydraulic downforce. So we ran Precision Planning's VSET V-drive and hydraulic downforce. So on the right side, we left it basically stock. Ran ground drive and spring downforce. And then, as most of you know, we went and did that, and we saw some really good return. One, on electric drives, of being able to have those shutoffs and having boundaries, and just the overlap on point rows and into waterways. There was one field where the right side that didn't have shutoffs planted 3.5 more acres than the left side. Okay, that was 8 rows in one field. We planted 3.5 more acres. So if it would have been across all 16, you didn't have shutoffs, you'd have planted 6.5 more acres of seed than what you did with the electric drives that had the shutoffs and the swath control. So I don't know how much your seed's costing you an acre, $100, $150 an acre for seed. That adds up pretty quick in your operation, right? So keep that in mind. Shutoffs. Hydraulic downforce. We saw a big return on this by putting hydraulic downforce. We were seeing 3 to 5 bushel difference depending on conventional till to no-till situations. And that was in corn. Conventional till was, 2-3 bushel. No-till, we saw 3.5, 5 bushel, depending on the soil conditions you're in. And in some soybeans that were no-tilled into cover crop, we saw about 17 to 20 bushel in there because it was dry and they couldn't get that seed on the spring side down into the moist soil. And on the hydraulic side, we could. So depending on your situation, hydraulic downforce can be a huge payback. And of course, depending on your meters, electric drives can really help too, especially like a precision planting meter, to start to build that picket fence. Make sure we're getting really good spacing, no skips, no doubles, equal spacing so that every plant can give its best potential, can reach its highest potential. Because we know that the highest potential of that seed is when it's still in the bag, right? And as we open the bag, it goes down. As we dump it in the box, it starts to go down. What we're doing at True Acre and what our team wants to do and why we consider ourselves planter experts, we understand the planter in a way that most people don't, partly because of what we're doing here. We don't just have an owner's manual and a spec that tells us how to run the planter. We understand what the planter needs to do for the seed to have its best, to reach its highest potential. right? We know what it needs agronomically, not just what the equipment needs. We know what the seed needs agronomically and what the planter has to do to be able to make that happen. The other thing with what we're doing with this planter is the first year we drug it across about 400 or 500 acres of corn. Now it's going about 900 acres of corn. And we have 4 operations or 4 scenarios that it's hitting in there. So this really gives us some unique information and independent testing with what we're doing. So the first one is, flat, black, well-drained soils, conventional tillage. The second is, again, sort of flat, black, well-drained soils, but that's all strip till. So a high fertility management program, all strip tilled. Spring applied with liquid. The third operation is no-till into more clay soils, tighter soils, but also doing the strip till with liquid in the spring. And then the fourth scenario is no-till. Usually this farm will have cover crops on it and hog manure applied in the fall, and we're no-tilling into that. So this planter is getting to see some wide variety of conditions. So it helps us understand what people run into, because we're really seeing with what that planter goes across probably represents most of you in the room, other than irrigation. We don't have it on any irrigated farms, okay? But otherwise, we're probably representing most of what you guys are doing. So what we did in 20 was we started working with the closing system. So now that planter is set up. It has the V-set V-drive all the way across it. It has hydraulic downforce on every row. It has speed tube on every row now, so we can plant at high speed on everything. We've been doing some tests, but last year went to all speed tubes, so we still have that on there. And then we have smart firmers on every single row also, so that we can be sensing soil temperature and soil moisture in that. So we have all that on there. So this year, we made everything completely the same, or in 2020, made everything the same, and then we said, we're going to mess with the closing system. So on the right side of the planter, we put the Yetter twister on there, sometimes called poly spikes, right? So that's this one. That's the one you see up there. And does a great job. It's the most popular closing wheel out there, especially in our area right now, okay? This thing, Yetter's been doing a great job with this, partly because they continue to see return on investment with it. If you look in a Beck's PFR book, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Beck's PFR books or not, but they do a bunch of independent studying across research farms all over Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, I think Southern Illinois, Wisconsin. I can't remember where all they have farms at now. And they have a big one over in Indiana, 700 acres. It's all independent studies. And what they've done, this has become Beck's PFR proven. And to be PFR proven, it has to have 3 years of return on investment. And it's done that. This thing is doing a great job. So especially when compared to just a stock OEM wheel like a lot of people are running. And I know there's some other configurations similar to this out there, that some of them are spikes, but this thing's really it's a hybrid, because what it does is it uses these fingers to crush down the sidewall, to break that sidewall down so that we can try to make sure we don't have any issues when that seed starts to germinate. We don't have any hatchet roots. So it's breaking that sidewall down, but then it's also firming the soil with these flat points here. Now we're having firming action. We're driving the air pockets out. We're trying to get that seed completely covered in soil so that we can get the best possibility for germination, right? So that's this. The poly spike. The other thing, and we've been running it for a few years on that planter. I've had great success with them. They've also made some changes though. So there's this one, it comes with an insert. You can buy it just as an insert so you don't get the whole wheel. So if you have the stock wheels with the rubber comes off, you put the inserts on, or you can buy the complete wheel. They've also come out with a cast iron wheel now. Okay, that one weighs, I think it's 5 pounds a row if you have the pair on. These are about 16 pounds each. Okay, but they're the exact same design. It's the exact same wheel, except for they took and they put cast iron. There's some other companies that make a solid cast iron wheel, and they're about 30 pounds a piece. That's getting pretty heavy. And these are heavy enough, you're adding 32 pounds. So depending on your soil conditions, this might be better for you than the polys are. They may wear longer, and if you're going a little faster, rougher ground, these also may ride a little better for you. Then they've also come out with the poly twister this year. It's the exact same wheel as this, but it's shorter. So they've done a shorter finger, and the reason they've done that is for soybeans. So guys that are planting inch and a half deep, you can use those on soybeans. So that is the Yetter Twister. There's a lot of other combinations of wheels out there. There's cast spikes. This is a spike that breaks down the sidewall, does a great job of tearing that sidewall down. Doesn't get the firming action necessarily for you though. It's just going to take the sidewall down and not firm and make sure we get the air drove out. There's a lot of options out there. If you haven't done anything, I think it's something you need to continue to look at on your planter. So I mentioned that wheel is Beck's PFR proven. You can see this is right out of the Beck's book for the 2020 crop year. Several different wheels there that have been Beck's PFR proven, including the Copperhead, the Furrow Cruiser, those. But notice here, Yetter Twister on corn is 5.1 bushel to the acres their average on their proven. 2.5 on soybeans. Okay, and if you buy the whole wheel, they're about $220 a row, depending on what type you get and whether you get inserts or whole wheels and all that. But 5.1 bushel on corn when compared to the stock standard rubber wheel. So keep that in mind. Acres to pay off, depending on how many acres or how many rows you're running, tells you how many acres it's going to take to pay those off. Okay, so that is the Yetter Poly Spike or Yetter Twister. The next one is a new system that came out last year. We put this on the planter on the left side. So that's the furrow force. That's this unit right here. Notice it's a two-stage system. Okay? We got our discs in the front. They're going to help to tear down the sidewall. And then the back is pressurized. You'll see there's an airbag up here and it puts pressure down here so that this puts pressure on and it helps to make sure we firm the soil and drive out the air pockets. Okay? So the first one's going to break the sidewall down, cover the seed. The second one's going to drive out those air pockets. Okay? The great thing about this, well, I guess let me ask you this. A lot of you're running a standard wheel and you have it set probably on notch 2, and it's probably been on notch 2 forever, and you probably don't ever make an adjustment to it, right? Regardless of soil type. That's a lot of us do that because, hey, it just makes planting easier not to mess with it. But if you don't get out and dig, you don't know how it's closing. But even if you do get out and dig and you do make adjustments, as the soil type varies across the farm, you're not making adjustments to that. You're not going to get out and change it every time you do a soil type. You may not even check it every day. Even when you change fields, it may be different soils or different moisture amounts in the soil that cause it to close different. The beauty of this is it has sensing capability. Okay, so the airbag is constantly sensing and letting us know how much pressure, similar to what it does on delta force on the planters, a hydraulic downforce, doing something similar to that. Okay, here's a quick video. This may explain it better than me talking about it. So maybe it's going to go. There we go. So notice that we have from the disc opening, we have memory in there, but notice how those discs are tearing that down and breaking that sidewall completely down. They're trying to erase that soil's memory. And then in the back, those wheels are running and they're putting pressure down to drive the air pockets out to make sure that we're getting that seed completely covered in soil. Okay? And these can handle high speeds. They can handle all sorts of variability going across the farm. Okay? So that is the furrow force. This thing has been really unique to operate. And one of the things that anybody who's operated furrow force that we've sold or they've been running our test planter or even at Precision Farm, when you go to dig the seed, you can't find the furrow. Like typically you dig the seed, find the furrow, dig along and find your seed in there, right? With this, it's gone. You cannot find it. It's as though the planter was never there, which is really what we want. We want to erase that, make sure the planter's never there. Why do we want to do that? Again, I want to give that seed its best possibility. I don't want it to have to fight through a sidewall. I don't want it to have to fight through that sidewall, especially if it's a little moist or we have too much pressure on it. And now we could cause hatchet roots. We could cause germination issues. We could cost us yield by doing that. This erases that completely. It makes it a little bit of a pain in the butt sometimes when you're digging seed because you can't find it anymore. You have to really make sure you know where you're at to try to find it because the furrow is completely gone. And then this completely wipes out by pushing it down, takes the air pockets out. So really, regardless of what system you're using, whether you're using a system like this, whether you're using stock rubber wheels, or whether you're using one of these, we want to make sure that you're digging so that this doesn't happen. Notice that left side. See that air pocket right there? That seed sitting in air means it's not covered in soil, means we're not going to germinate until we get a rain and get moisture. We have to get that seed completely covered in soil so that it can start to imbibe water, imbibe moisture. Once it starts to imbibe moisture, then the germination process starts. And ideally, what precision planting has been studying shown is we want those seeds to come up within 12 hours of each other. Once emergence starts, we'd like them to all emerge within 12 hours. We know that when we go out to 24, 36, 48, and even 48 plus, that it starts to cost us yield. Precision planting did a study on that, and you can see the ears. If you find those ones that came up later, the ears get smaller and smaller because they're competing with all the other plants around them. They've been behind from the very beginning. They're sort of like they're the runt in the neighborhood, and they're competing against all the other seeds that are coming up ahead of them, and they're fighting for sunlight, they're fighting for fertilizer. So we want them to come up as evenly as possible. That's the advantage that we get with running a furrow force. Now in 2020, we didn't see huge gains in yield necessarily by running furrow force. But also in 2020, I think most of you would agree, we had almost ideal planting conditions every single day. In 2019, in 2020, even on the worst days, was better than the best days in 2019 though, right? I think I've had those conversations. Most people said like, man, we were never this good in 2019 ever, no matter how long you waited or what you did. What they saw at the precision planting farm with that furrow force, in 2019 with all that rain, they saw about a 10 to 20 bushel difference. Okay, so marginal conditions are when it's really going to shine. Okay, in great conditions, and what we did when we ran the Beck's Twister this year, we did get out and dig. There were some farms we went out, we started in notch 2. I was finding air pockets that I could put my seed digger down in there the whole length. There was an air pocket there. Went to notch 3, still finding air pockets. Went to notch 4. Next field, switch, went back to notch 3. We were constantly digging because we didn't want to we could have set that side up and, not put enough pressure on and made sure furrow force won. That's not what we're doing. We wanted to make sure that we were giving them both the best possibility to be able to beat the other one. We want to know what's really going to return. So in some places, some conventional till and some hybrids, we saw yet or twister slightly better than furrow force. And on no till with some cover crop, that's where we saw furrow force be slightly better. So in some really hard soils, we saw it shine a lot more. So there were some areas where it was 3, 4, 5 bushel difference. Some areas where it was actually a half a bushel or maybe a bushel behind, or they were right there the same. So saw some differences though. One thing we saw was down corn. Doesn't make sense. I've talked to Precision about it, don't know why. But the furrow force side was, and a hybrid that got blown down by the wind stood better than the other side. Not really much yield difference, maybe a half a bushel or something, but for some reason it stood better and was a little easier to combine. I don't know why, because bent over at the stalk, we didn't lodge at the root. So I'm not sure why, but for some reason that plant handled the wind better. So that's what we did in 2020 on corn. We're going to continue to be doing some of that in 21 also. But also out at our test plot, we're continuing to mess with soybeans and do some of that. So one of the things we've been looking at is going, hey, what if I could get a picket fence stand with my soybeans? And we continue to see a lot of people messing with beans. And I know, eastern Iowa, western Illinois, this is corn country, right? We haven't really always spent a lot of time and energy on soybeans. But 1150 beans, we ought to be trying to make sure we can get the most out of them as possible. We need to make sure that every acre is making us money. It used to be we could just make sure we made a good profit on corn. That carried us on beans. Not anymore, not with the input costs and stuff we have today. We have to make sure that we're profitable across all of our acres every year. So Precision Planting has a new 56 cell plate. A lot of people, if you were been working with this or even some other companies, they have the 2-row and have like an 80 cell plate. It's really hard to singulate soybeans with that. It's even hard to count population and see that across the monitors very well. The 56 1-row, we can see improved singulation. We see improved spacing. We're able to get that picket fence stand by using this. And we can plant at high speeds. And what I've seen with the PTI farm and with Beck's, what I'm seeing with them, between those two companies, they're saying a bushel to bushel and a half increase by going to a plate that will give us good, improved singulation and a picket fence stand. We've been messing with it. We're going to continue to mess with it. So what we did at our test plot is we ran against a standard stock Kinsey planter, and we used our test planter. It's on 30-inch rows. The Kinsey wasn't, so we did some split rows and stuff. But we've got some data coming out of that. Didn't see huge differences, but did see some differences, especially when we went out and actually looked at the beans and started looking at branches and looking to see what was going on. We also were doing population studies while we were out there. So on the Kinsey, we were doing 145,000 constant population, and then we did some of that with our test planter also. But we also did 120,000 population, and we did it in 15-inch rows. So we had to nudge the GPS over, and we planted down the center of the row to do 15-inch rows. And we did some all the way down to 75,000. We're going to continue to be doing not just corn, but doing soybeans, because we think we need to know that information. We need to just continue to challenge ourselves. If you're interested in more of this information, the True Acre team will be having planter clinics coming up here in February. And so with those planter clinics, we'll be going over some of this data there too as we go through planter clinics. So if you're interested in attending that and learning more, we'll just be talking through the whole planter, help you guys make sure that you can go home and get your planter ready and know what to look for and remember how to get it all set up. So if you're interested, talk to the True Acre team. Let them know you'd like to attend one of those. So for 21, as we jump into 21, and happy to put 2020 behind us, as I said, we have that planter set up with everything exactly the same across it, except for the closing system. 21, we're going to keep the same closing system on it because I want to see, I don't know what conditions are going to be like in 21. I know I agree with most of you. I hope that's as good as 20 was, right? I hope we have as good a spring as we did. But if we don't, if we have some more marginal conditions, maybe that'll let us see if furrow force shines in those marginal conditions. But the other thing we're going to do in 21 is we're going to put conceal on the planter. Conceal is a way to put nitrogen on. So we're going to start putting liquid nitrogen on with the planter. I know the planter is designed to put seed out, okay? But we're going to start using it to put fertilizer out. We're going to have, again, using a high management program to try to give that seed the best opportunity it has to reach its highest potential by putting that nitrogen out there. See? All we're doing, we're not putting more nitrogen, we're just reallocating the way we've been putting it on, how we're putting it on, and where we're putting it on. So the way conceal is going to work, it's more of a spoon feeding. So it's sort of like this. You got that kid on the right, diving in, he's getting a lot of cake, probably feels like he's eating faster, but it's going everywhere, he's covered in it. We want to use a spoon. We want to make sure we're helping that plant make it as easy as possible for him, right, by using that spoon feeding. So conceal, it's been around for a couple years. And it is it is the gauge wheel. So it's a gauge wheel. It goes, take off your old gauge wheels and we're going to put this on. Okay? It's a new gauge wheel. It's split in half and we're going to put it on both sides. You don't have to. You can put it on one side, but we're going to put it on both sides. And then it has this knife sticking in there that sticks in the ground. It puts the nitrogen through the center of the gauge wheel then, and it's putting the nitrogen in the soil. So we're not just dribbling on top, we're able to get it in the soil to make sure that we don't have to worry about volatilization. Trying to get it closer to where the seed needs it. We don't have to worry about it trying to move through the soil. But it's allowing us to band underground near the seed. And the ideal pattern here is that seed hits that nitrogen band about V3, and then it can take off. Because we want that plant really, really healthy at V5, because at V5 is when we start to set the rows around. Right? So I want to make sure we can get the most rows around that's possible on that plant. So we're going to get that nitrogen someplace where it's really efficient and easy for it to get to. So again, we're going to be about 1.5 inches deep and 3 inches to each side is how we're going to be putting it down. Okay? Sort of going to look like this. So those blue dots are supposed to represent 3 inches. V3, they start to hit that. This plant's at V3, going to be hitting that, and then we're set to be able to really put the ears on when we get to put the rows on when we get to V5. A lot of people have messed with nitrogen in the past, and one of the things that's interesting about eastern Iowa is we don't see a lot of liquid on planters. But if you go to Michigan or Missouri or Nebraska, even Illinois, there's a lot of guys putting liquid on. They've been putting it on for a while. Some of them it's because soil type. We do have some awesome soils here in eastern Iowa and western Illinois that they don't have. Okay, so they have to worry about spoon feeding because otherwise they lose it. We do have some benefits of our soils. We don't have to worry about that as much. But one of the reasons you guys don't like to, because it's messy, it's a pain, it's been a little bit of a guess because the way you put it on, you got to have the same amount of hoses and all that to try to make sure you're getting the same amount to every row. And then when you turn, you get 40 gallons on the one side and you get 5 gallons on the other. And so it's really hard to make sure you're getting everything exactly where you want it. Well, Precision Planting uses V-Apply HD. It's this system that's going to help us regulate flow rate. It's going to measure flow for us. We'll have this on every row. we can use the Gen 3, the monitor, to actually regulate our nitrogen that we're putting on. We don't have to have a separate monitor in the cab to do that. We're going to be using vApply HD. It also allows us for changes in speed and turn compensation. Okay, that's why it's on every row. So it's going to make sure when we want 50 units of nitrogen to the acre, we're going to get 50 units of nitrogen on every single row. Again, trying to make sure that we're spoon feeding and being as efficient as we can with our nitrogen. Also, this can handle variable rate prescriptions. So it's obviously one of the things that will probably slow us down planting, putting on nitrogen. We know that, but we think it's what's going to be best for the operation. Okay? So we're gonna try it and see. And I don't know if it's going to really pay off or not, so we're going to try it. Because Jason Webster, if any of you guys have heard Jason Webster speak, and if you've been to some of our stuff, you have, very passionate, right? And he gets his hands going, and he tells me every time I talk to him, Rob, if you'll just put one thing on the planter, put nitrogen on, put conceal on, $50 to the acre. I guarantee you, $50 to the acre. That's what he always tells me. He's running it on the test planter, on their test farm at Precision. He also does it on his own operation. He didn't want to do it, but he started testing it. It proven that he needed to, so he's doing it on his own operation. So we're going to try it, but we're going to get some results. So we picked out 2 farms, and we're going to do 120 foot, so 2.5 rounds, and we're going to put on 50 units with the planter. Then we're going to turn the nitrogen off. We're going to go 2.5 rounds, and we're not going to put any nitrogen on the planter, but we're going to put on a weed and feed with 50 units. So we're going to find out if we put the same amount of nitrogen on, but if I put it in a different location, will I get a return on investment to pay for this? Again, their research shows it will, but we don't know, so we're going to go do our own studies, do our own research, and find out if it will. So some of that, what we're doing is being allowed because Dwight and Glennie and Robbie will continue to let us to do testing on their operation. I greatly appreciate that. They're letting us do some of our own stuff on their farms, and so they're letting us control some acres so that we can make choices and make decisions on that, how it gets done and when it gets done, so that we can get the right information to challenge us and make us better, but hopefully then bring information back that can help you guys also. So, and one of the things Jason last year was talking about, said, hey, we got some acres we're controlling. And he was all excited about his marketing plans and that. And he said, hey, we'll bring it back. We'll let you know how we did. So I have some of that information today. We're also going to be able to talk about return on investments. We're going to talk about our marketing's wins and fails. And then a little bit of a peek behind the scenes, what we'll be able to hit also from some of the profitability that we'll spend just a little bit on. So our corn marketing, last year when we got here, we didn't have any sold. Okay, we had some bids out, but they didn't hit. We ended up selling later in the summer, and we delivered straight to the elevator. Our average sale price last year was $321. That ended us up with about a negative $20 an acre profit on those fields. Okay, part of it was we had 2 different hybrids. One hybrid was running about 265 to 270. Told us everything we were doing with our spring tillage or strip tilling was doing great. Okay. Another hybrid went down to the wind. It averaged 160 to 180 and brought our field average down. Okay, so one of the things that we'd like to do, we're trying to pour the groceries, do everything we can to the best, because we'd like to go out and raise 300 bushel corn across the field. But then what we want to do is we want to be able to come back and tell you, did we make money? Because we see guys all the time that are making 300 bushel, 500 bushel, 650. Right? We see these guys are doing that, but what they don't tell us is if they're making money. I don't know if they're making money or not. Well, we want to try and go out and do this, and we want to come back and tell you if we are making money. We're gonna let you see what we're doing. We're gonna tell you how much nitrogen we're putting on what we did and how it worked. So, corn, we lost money on that. Soybeans, if you remember last year, Jason was so proud because he was very aggressive, and he'd sold 60 bushel to the acre. Well, I just got done telling you don't sell more than 60% on soybeans before you get it in the ground, right? In January 2020, he'd already sold 60 bushel to the acre. Our crop insurance guarantee wasn't even 60 bushel to the acre. And then it turned dry in the fall. We were nervous. And then we started combining and cutting beans, and all of a sudden we see, and then we're running about 58 bushels. It's like, we're going to be paying back. We're going to be buying bushels. And then it went to 59, and then it went to 60. But Jason's yelling at us, make sure you get every bean, because he thought he was going to really look bad if he messed up, because he had sold 60 bushel to the acre. Even though we've stood up here for years and tell you, don't sell more than 85% even of your guarantee, okay? We'd sold over it. Well, he lucked out and we got 63 bushel. Okay? So he lucked out, got 63 bushel, and we did well. Okay? And we had forward sold and we'd locked in a good price in January, and it turned out really, really good for us. Okay? Now, some of you didn't do any forward selling, and you're seeing the prices we sold at a 10.32, and you're like, whoop-de-doo, I got 11.50, right? Because, yes, the people who didn't have a marketing plan in 2020 look like heroes, okay? They look great because of that, right? That thing took off through the roof. Corn and beans both have charts that look like this in the last 6 months. And we had a perfect storm with the derecho, and then USDA changing their numbers, and then Argentina getting dry, and we've just had continuous changes. China getting their hog supply back up, and so feed's going up. So we've had a lot going on that's driven this market, right? So those guys who didn't sell look like heroes. But there's a lot of people that say, hey, I think you ought to be trying something. So this is something out of Farm Bureau spokesman. They have in the back the cash strategist sales. So I just took this right out of there. This is what they did for 2020. They sold 10% a month. So if you're not doing anything, maybe look at selling 10% a month. They started in December of 19 at 15%. They ended in October of 20 and still had 10% unsold. They did something similar with the beans. They started in October of 19 on beans, though. Okay, that's what they did for 10% a month. That's how they did it. And then left themselves some unsold bushels at the end. And if they raised over APH, they may have had even more bushels. For their 21 crop, this is another program they have going. They started selling in 21. So they've sold 60% of their grain already in 20 for the 21 crop season. Now they're missing some of the highs in that, but if they can lock in a profit, who cares? But they're sitting with 40% unsold right now. Okay, so again, this is in the back of the Farm Bureau spokesman. This is what they're doing. Again, I think you ought to be trying something, looking at something, challenging yourself to at least do some forward selling. And I had a guy tell me the other day, he'd sold all his corn. 21 corn, not old corn, new corn, 21 corn. I said, really, like you think price is going to go up? He goes, it might, but I don't need to get greedy. I don't care. I farm 500 acres, and I'm just locked in $120,000 a profit on 500 acres. It's like, if I can lock in $120,000 a profit on 500 acres, I got to do it. Why would I get greedy? I already got all my inputs locked in. Why would I do something crazy? So look at doing something, but you got to know your inputs. Like him, he knew what his inputs cost, so he knew that he was going to make $120,000. If you don't know your inputs, it gets really squirmish to do that. Because we know that already this year, if you haven't locked in inputs, I've been hearing P&K and nitrogen going up $100 a ton already. Don't know if that's true, but I had a retailer tell me, yeah, $100 a ton, and this was probably 2 weeks ago. I see a couple retailers shaking their head out there. So $100 a ton. So get your stuff locked in, know what your inputs are. Our marketing plan, what we've done for 21 on our crops, don't know how it's going to work out, but we've already sold 44 bushel to the acre. Okay, so we've sold up to our guarantee. So we've sold over that 60% of prevent plant like I told you not to. We've already sold up to our crop insurance guarantee. Okay, we've sold some at $9.98 that we have a premium, or our average is $9.98. We sold some at $9.94, the majority, and then we sold 1,500 bushels a couple weeks ago at $11.50, which brings our average up to $9.98 right now. Okay, so plus we get a premium on that, but we know our input costs. We have everything locked in, and we know right now that we're going to make about $150 an acre on that. Okay, you have to know your input costs and know where you're at. Corn, we haven't sold any yet. We got some bids out, haven't had any hit yet, haven't sold any corn yet. So I'll let you know how that turns out. So a quick behind the scenes look, and this is that profitability calculator, that spreadsheet that Logan was talking about earlier that's on the Lee Agency website. Logan built this thing and did a really good job on it. If you don't have a calculator like this, if you don't have a spreadsheet that you can put all your input costs and know where you're at, I suggest you use this. If you're don't know how to go get it on the internet and go do that, let us know. We'll help you. And I know this information's confidential and you don't want everybody to know your business. In the insurance world, we deal with confidential information every single day. It's what we do. So if you'd like help, if you'd like us to sit down with you and do a walkthrough with you, we'd love to do that. Get myself, get Logan, get Jason, get Hunter. They'd love to sit down and go through this with you and help you figure out your input costs and figure out where you're at so you can know where you're profitable and where you aren't. So this was our last year, 2020. You'll notice I took land. Land's at a 0 in there. Did that for a couple reasons, but one of the main reasons is some of you own your ground and you put a different number on that. Some of you are renting, some of you have a flex rent. We just put it in at 0 so you can see what we would make per acre prior to rent, okay? This calculator will show you can put how many acres you want of corns and beans. We can put your market price or estimated prices in there. You can put APHs or estimated yields in there. You can do that all the way across, and then it'll even come over here and it'll tell you how many bushels you have available. Okay, so it's going to give you 85% of crop insurance. How many bushels do I have? So again, this is on our calculator, or this is on our website. And you'll notice here, you can see how much we're going to make an acre without rents in there. We could make $209 an acre, and this was for 2020, and $300 on soybeans without any land costs in there. Okay? So check this out. Let us know if we can help you on that. Couple of quick announcements before I go. So planter clinic, we're going to be doing some of these in February, March. Let the True Acre team know if you are interested in having those. We were going to do a big one back in December. COVID didn't happen. Okay, so now we're trying to break them up and do them a little bit differently. Spring technology training. So this is where you can bring your monitors to and train. Ag Learning Center on March 17th. RSVP and let us know that you're going to be there though, because you need to bring your monitor with you, and we need to make sure we have enough cords. So we got to know who's going to be there so we have enough places to sit and have enough cords for all the monitors. But your precision planting Gen 1, Gen 2s, Gen 3s, bring those. We're going to get them updated on software, and we're going to walk through and make sure you know how to know what to delete of old stuff and get them all completely ready and get you trained up so you're ready for planting season. And then we'll also do an Ag Leaders class that afternoon also. So March 17th, RSVP today. And then our field day is tentatively scheduled for June 11th out on Highway 38. Again, so hopefully it'll be June 11th. That's what we're planning right now, and hopefully don't have any COVID restrictions there either. And hopefully we'll have Jason Webster back to speak at that again.